Welcome, everyone, to today's Nobody Studios Culture live stream. My name is Sejal Thakkar, and I am the Chief Culture Officer at Nobody Studios. And today we have an exciting conversation. We have a special guest, a friend and a colleague, Michelle Bournstein, joining us. She is a seasoned, dream driven leader. So, welcome to the show, Michelle.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here with you and can't wait to share what dreaming looks like.
Well, I just want to start off by just saying thank you again for the outstanding session that you led for us at our studio with our core team. It was our first global dreamstorming session, and you really gave us a lot of tools. You gave us motivation to dream bigger, and you connected us on just a deeper level. So, thank you again for doing that for our team.
Yeah. And I just have to say, like, that team, most of the time when people come in, they're a little skeptical, like, what is this? Why are we doing this thing called dreamstorming? But they were so leaned in and dialed into that experience, and that energy that they brought, it just amplified as we went through that process. And so I really enjoyed working with them and loved it. So
Yay. No, that's how I felt when I first saw you when you presented at the Inclusive Leadership in a Virtual World group. And I saw this topic, right, about you and your journey of how you came to being a dream driven leader. So maybe we could just kick it off there. Tell us a little bit about yourself. And I love saying that, dream driven leader. Talk to us about what got you here.
Yeah, so about 8 years ago, I was working in a large organization and I was independent. So just doing my thing, running my division, but it was really just me. And we wanted to grow. And my boss came to me and said, "Hey, let's create a team." And I thought, yeah, that's super easy. Just I'll pull people together and we'll be a team. But it wasn't. And for me, working independently for many, many years, I just didn't know how to motivate, how to inspire, how to get people to go to a common goal. And I was really frustrated as a leader, and I just didn't understand why, like what was missing. And my boss saw that and she said, "Hey, check out this book, The Dream Manager. It's by Matthew Kelly." And I thought, okay, I'll try anything at this point because I was ready to just disband the team and go back to the independent work I was doing. And I did it. So we did a dreamstorming session. Everyone was a little nervous. We shared our dreams, and it was just instant, that ability to see the people that we had been working with for many, many years come together in a completely different way and connect on something that was not related to work, not related to our task list or things that we had to do for clients. It was really just about us. And that was it. Like at that moment, I just was hooked. It became part of my coaching conversations. I just wanted to know more about what people were dreaming about. And it gave me the energy to be the leader that they wanted me to be. So.
I love it. So, for people that don't know that are joining us today, what is dream driven leadership, and why do you think it's important? I agree with everything that you said, because like when I saw you the first time, I remember just feeling like, why aren't we having more of these conversations? Right? To me, it was like there was like this connection that happened where I'm like, we definitely need to do more of this. So, tell us what dream driven leadership is and why is it important for us right now?
Yeah, so for me, dream driven leadership is the way to open up an ability between two people or multiple people where you actually see what is driving them. You hear what they are really wanting, and it's I mean almost never about more money. I've never had someone come in and say, "I'm dreaming of a raise." It's really about what is driving them, their why, and why they're getting up every day and why they're coming to work every day. And so as a dream driven leader, really focusing in on that piece of the human that you're working with allows you to create a team that really trusts each other, that's committed to each other, that really is driving towards a higher goal or a result for that team. And it's not, it's I don't even know how to explain how that connection really magically gets created. But once you're in that zone of sharing dreams and knowing what people are dreaming about on their day to day, it allows you to connect with them in a leadership way that isn't forced or required. They really just come to the table and they want to spend time with you and you want to spend time with them, which, let's face it, we work with people most of the time. We live and work with people more than we're at home, quite often. And so it's important to know what really makes them get up in the morning and want to come to work. And this is just a way to do that.
I love it. I love how it's all about just acknowledging, but also actively encouraging people, to dream, which is something that a lot of us, aren't told, and really don't know how to do that, to be honest. And then I also like the fact that this approach goes beyond traditional leadership, and you know how I feel about traditional leadership. So it's about, I think it's time that people realize that, look, what our personal dreams or our aspirations are really do contribute to our professional success, right? So
Mhm.
like the work that I do at Nobody Studios is an extension of the work that I do for my own business, right? So because I'm passionate about my own business, I bring that passion to the work that I'm doing there, but even bigger, right? So I can think
Mhm.
even beyond, of like, okay, well, we want to build 100 companies. So now I'm looking at how can I impact? So it just, I think talking about that though, what I really appreciated about the session that you did with us at the studio, I was a little nervous going into that session, but I had put some feelers out beforehand, right? And I had put it out to a couple of people, our idea sorceress, Kiara Burns, and Min Bageta, our director of Idea Lab. After I saw your presentation, I reached out to them and said, hey, I want to do a dreamstorming session for our team. And both of them immediately were like, we love that. That sounds awesome, right? So but I wanna hear from you, like, well, what were some of your observations? Like, you do this, you work with organizations of all sizes, and all all locations. What were some of the observations of that you had of our team during the session? Do you feel like we achieved the outcome from that session, or any kind of noteworthy observations you might have?
I think that hesitation that you were feeling, like, should we do this? What is this about? How is this going to impact the team? That is most often what I step into. So I very
Mm,
rarely come into a room of 10 people who say, yes, let's do this thing. And what I observed in coming into the Nobody Studio session was everyone was leaned in and really just saying, we're open to whatever you're bringing. And that attitude, I think, or that mindset really allows people to take it to the next level, which is what I saw. So often, when I'm dreaming with people, they keep it real light, kind of surface, like, yes, okay, we'll kind of test the waters, and we'll put some things out there in case she calls on me. But it's not really as deep in the earlier introduction sessions. It takes a little while for people to be comfortable. And what I found in the Nobody Studios experience was when we came back out of breakout and we shared, the types of dreams people were dreaming about were transformational, whether it was changing their lives or changing others. It was about helping others. It was about creating spaces that were better, so making the world a better place.
mm,
And I don't think that was just tied to the questions that, the topics or categories we were dreaming in, but rather the willingness of the group to say, I'm completely open to this experience and I'm going to just be vulnerable and go with it. And so that was in all the sessions that I've led, that was the first time where I felt people taking it to the next level, and they didn't require hours of dreaming together in order to get there. So that's just telling me that that team is strong. They trust each other. They were willing to be vulnerable, and they weren't fearing for, if I say the wrong kind of dream or someone's
mhm.
going to think this is silly. Like, they were really open to it, and that for me is the utopia of dreaming with people, if you will. So
Yes, this is like music to my ears. I love it. I also agree. I thought the session was super inspiring. Because I kind of I wanted to observe everybody and pay attention to what was going on. And I saw like genuine enthusiasm by everybody that was there.
Mm.
And the depth of what they shared was huge too, right? Because I do workshops all the times with teams. And like you said, the depth, they were so open and vulnerable. And I felt like you were pivotal in creating this like space where people had this open dialogue, and they were able to talk about this. And when I was thinking last night, when I was preparing for today, like some of the things that really jumped out at me was, like you said, there were, how do I improve my skills and talent and what I bring for the studio? I saw a lot about people talking about the future and making
Mhm.
that positive impact, right? Of how do I create, what's my part, what's my role in creating that impact? And so I just saw this like sense of like camaraderie. Like I think we totally created that experience that we were striving to do. And then afterwards, I got positive feedback from several people that attended saying, we want to do more of that, And so
Nice.
I definitely want to talk about how we can continue to incorporate and do this for the companies that we're building as well, because I just thought it was so valuable. So I wanted to ask you a question too, something, I've asked several of my guests this question because, as the chief culture officer, it's hard to kind of build that strong team, or I'm always looking for different ways of creating these kind of shared spaces, especially when we've got a
Mm.
distributed workforce. Everybody works globally. Everyone works remotely. And then we have technology that we can use, like we did for our session. We did it on Zoom. We have Slack that we use, but human connection is so important, right? And so what's your thoughts on this? How should we be using technology? What's that bridge between that human connection and technology?
Mm.
What were your thoughts on that?
So I think the first time, so my whole career, I've been consulting with people remotely. So 20 years of phone, never, almost never face to face. But when COVID came, I was leading the entire organization and felt that we had to figure out the ways to keep people engaged and connected. And so we rolled out Teams, and we required video for all calls. Like if you're coming for a big meeting, you're on video. If you're one-on-one, you're on video.
Mhm.
And I think the ability to see someone is important. You may not get everything that energy that you feel when you're actually with someone, but the video portion of it is critical to being able to have that eye to eye. I'm seeing you, and I can see you. So that was one thing. The other thing is being very intentional about the time you spend together. So like we have all these ways to chat and be like, hey, let me just bounce something off you, and someone will ping you, and you're just like, oh yeah, here's what you do, and then you keep moving. And so for me, I think the creation of that intentional time,
Mhm.
even if it's 5-10 minutes, is what it takes to move that or strengthen that connection that you have with someone else.
Mhm.
Um, and I do in my coaching practice a lot of one-on-ones, and I find that just once a month, 1 hour once a month with someone is more powerful than me chatting with them every day, because they
Mhm.
know this is my time, this is our time for a private conversation, a what's on your mind conversation, a what are you dreaming about conversation, and it just completely transforms that bond that you have with someone, whether it's peer to peer or leader to peer or mentor, however you want to identify it. But that intentional time, I think, is critical. And then using technology, which is the video call and hearing what someone has to say versus seeing it in an email or a chat,
Right.
is really what it takes. So,
Yeah, no, I agree with all of that. I think that it's about the intentionality, like you said, and making that time. I think the mode
mhm.
of communication, I love video, huge fan of video, but I do a lot of walking and talking, and so I think that's, it's always good to see each other. And we encourage people to take virtual coffee breaks together. We do
Nice.
virtual team building events where we see each other. We have a Slack channel that we use for we have a water cooler Slack channel where people can
Mhm.
just, like yesterday, I was looking at Instagram and there was this video of this kid like coming down this slide, just cruising down, and said something like, this is me trying to get to the end of 2023, and I was cracking up. So I put it in our Slack channel and said, anybody else relate to this, right? So it really gives it. We try to create various spaces, because not everybody wants to be on video, not everybody wants to be on Slack. So I think
Yeah.
it's about, like, how do we create different spaces and give people the option to say, here's what we can do, but then always encourage them to jump on a one-on-one with anybody in the studio. And it's not just about, of course, we want to talk about the incredible work that we're doing at the studio, but also we're also wanting to support each other outside of the studio. A lot of us are consultants. We have our own businesses. We're doing a lot of our own things, and there's some really cool people that are in our studio. So we're always encouraging people to, and we also encourage people when they're traveling to say, make time for that in-person
Yeah.
one-on-one. So if you're traveling, put it there in the Slack channel and say, hey, I'm going to be in New York for a thing. Does anybody want to get together for lunch? And so we're always
Nice.
looking at different ways. So I really appreciate you sharing some of those things. And by the way, we have Min Bogata. I want to give a shout out to Min, who's joining us today. And he said, this session was amazing. I went in with an open mind. And by the end of the session, I could really feel a stronger bond with my colleagues and a collective vision around our goals and values. Yes, totally agree with you, Min.
Nice.
Thank you for joining us today.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to ask you, for again, I've gone through the process with you, but for people that are signing on, leaders that are thinking about incorporating this into their culture strategy plan, which I highly recommend doing, how does encouraging people to dream together collectively, how does that impact team dynamics? How is that going to help people collaborate better? Maybe you can kind of just share with us maybe a case study of a client that you work with. And I always love hearing those case studies from people too.
Yeah, so I find that this whole process of incorporating dreaming into the workplace, it is a personal experience. It does require the person to step up and say, I'm willing to give it a try. I'm willing to explore what this looks like for me. And I've also found that most people just stop dreaming. So I will encounter in any given group of 10 to 15 people, there's someone who just says, I don't have any dreams. Perfectly fine. So, as a leader, you're like, what am I going to do? Right. But it's okay, because what happens is that when we just start talking about something other than the work, other than the tasks, other than our job, it starts to transform the way people think about themselves. And it also transforms the way that they see that the value that they bring. So for example, I worked with this person for probably 10 years and always looked at her as just this person who did some accounting work and never really thought like much more deeper of, yes, she's a hard worker, I trust her, and that's it. Like, so she was on the team, but that was it. And when we started dreaming together, I was blown away that she had so many dreams. Like, I had overlooked the possibility that she could have 100 dreams on her list. And then what was fascinating is that work ethic that she was bringing to the table, that I could see, like, yep, you can depend on her. She's going to get it done. She's very driven. She went after her dreams that same way. And as a leader, I got to witness her accomplishing 5 dreams a year, which was mind blowing because they were big dreams, like life-changing dreams. So as we start to think about how to incorporate this, it really starts with creating a space to say, it's okay. You don't have to share what you don't want to share, just be open to the experience. But then once they've gotten anything on paper, so just challenging them to dream in one of the 12 categories, once they have it, the trick is really getting them to share it. And it's through the sharing process and what Min was expressing, like that connection and that bond, that strengthening of the bond, that's really coming from the sharing process. So even if someone says, I don't have any dreams, you still include them in the process of dreaming, because they will hear something that someone says and think, oh yeah, okay, I can put that on my list. And at that moment, that's the spark that's like connecting. That's the line connecting them to someone else. And what I find fascinating is that we work with people for years and really never think of them on any level other than this is a teammate or a coworker or a peer. And then when you say, let's talk about dreams in the workplace, it allows people to see them as humans who have feelings, who have wishes, who think about things more than just what's in the walls of the workspace.
Mhm.
And that process there, that human connection, is really, I think, the end result or the outcome of allowing people to dream together. And when they dream together, they're able to trust each other, commit to the team, commit to the company vision, and really understand that what they do inside the walls of the organization is ultimately impacting the company's success, but also allowing them to achieve their dreams, because it's motivating them to come in every day and it's motivating them to keep performing and growing through that process. And in my opinion, it's a win-win-win. So
Mhm. No, it's so much of what you just said resonates with me because I've gone to when I was doing the in-person trainings, I've had training sessions where, and I don't make this up, like I'm not that good, right? But like where two people that have sat next to each other for years, and you ask them basic questions like, are you married? Do you have kids? How long's your commute? Do you have any pets? Like they've been sitting next to each other for years and they don't know that basic information about each other. So when you need someone to have your back, you're not going to go to that person because they don't know
right.
anything about you. They don't know what drives you, what your passion is. And so I kind of feel like the work that you're doing is so important because not only does it help you connect with that person on a deeper level, but I think it even goes beyond that, Michelle, because I think what it does is that it takes colleagues from just being colleagues to being allies for one another, right? So like if I connect with you on such a deep level where I am dreaming with you, like when you need someone to step up and help you on something or, introduce you to somebody, I'm going to have your back, right? Like I'm going to be an ally for you. I'm going to throw your name into the hat at every opportunity I have to say, bring Michelle into your organization because she worked
Yeah,
wonders for us at Nobody Studios, right? But like you become allies for each other when you dream together, right? So
absolutely.
that's kind of how I feel about it, and so I'm curious, have you noticed working with teams, do you notice like within certain teams any kind of patterns or commonalities that the different team members share? I'm just it's just when I
Mhm.
was like looking at the questions for last night, I was like, I can't wait to hear from her about like, does she notice in a certain type of team we see more of this kind of pattern or
Mhm.
whatnot, or is it just all over the board?
Yeah, so if I have a team of visionaries, and I would say the Nobody Studios group was definitely in the visionary category, the pattern is the pattern is like not just what they're doing in their, I'm dreaming of traveling the world, it's not that, it's definitely much more expansive. But if I'm dreaming with a group of, let's say, director of service or director of operations or someone that's more in the how do we get things done, they're
Mhm.
usually my group that will say, I don't really have any dreams, so I have to push them a little. But when they do start to dream, they're going to be really comfortable in like the adventure or the material or even the spiritual categories versus maybe psychological or emotional categories. And when they do finally share a dream, the patterns might be, I want to travel here, or I want to spend time with my family, or I want to incorporate more spirituality into my day to day. And those are always surprising to me whenever we go into the spiritual category, because you never know what drives people from a spiritual level. But I think it's very
Mm.
important for them to connect with that. And then when they do share it, what I'll often see is someone saying, I really like that approach and I want to do it too. So people are inspiring each other, and I would say that that's the biggest pattern, is that inspiration of shared dreams. Because it's just like a quiz. If someone's saying, here, tell me about this, it's sometimes very hard to come up with it. But whenever you're starting to talk about it with people that are around the table, then it's much easier to say, oh yes, that I'm interested in that too.
Mm.
Or I just did that. So I just traveled to France and it was beautiful. Or I'm going there next year and I can't wait. So you start to connect those dots together whenever it gets down to what are people dreaming about. And almost like on every dream session that I facilitate, there's always one person that surprises everyone else, and they'll say it. Like they'll say, "Oh, I didn't think you had any dreams." And then they've got like this huge list. And
Mm-hmm.
so that pattern of recognizing that, yes, you've been working with someone, but never really thought what's outside of the work environment, what's going on with them. And it always takes people by surprise when they see that they've got 100 dreams listed and wouldn't have thought they were dreaming about anything. So
Mm-hmm.
it's
Yeah,
it's
no, I
fun.
struggled. I struggled during our session because what was, I was thinking about, okay, if I was going to write a book, the one of the in our icebreaker, like what book would you want to write? And I'm like, in my head, I'm thinking, I don't want to write a book. Like, but then I started thinking about it. And I'm like, well, if I had to write a book, and then it just opened up that door where now I'm like, okay, I've got a folder on my phone, and I'm texting myself like little notes on, okay, if I do write a book someday. So now it's an option. It's something that I'm like, okay, maybe it'll happen. I don't know, but I think that the other thing I saw in our session that really jumped out at me too was that I think this question really goes to noticing those commonalities, right? Which once you can identify some of those patterns, and if we do more of these, right, and we have some of the same people coming back or new people coming in, when you identify those themes, I think it gives us a good insight on what are areas we can support our team members, what are some resources that might be helpful, for people. So it's a great way to get
Absolutely.
feedback as well, so that we can support their dreams, right? So, and then it becomes like magic,
Yeah.
right? Where you can line up the personal aspirations with the core values of the organization to say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, now we've got alignment of not only just, yes, I'm here for what Nobody Studios wants to do, but my own personal aspirations line up with what the studio is doing. And now we've got a power team working together, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's where the magic happens. So for people that are listening, Michelle, that, you said you've worked with leaders that often have that, I'm skeptical, I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
why should I be doing this? What advice do you have for those leaders who haven't started on this journey yet? They're skeptical, but encouraging them to incorporate these type of dream-driven principles or leadership into their style. What advice do you have for them?
So as a coach, I'm a curious coach. So I always ask questions and like shy away from the advice giving. So I would ask them two questions. The first one would be, how do you believe dreaming will hurt you as a leader?
Mm,
How will it impact you negatively? What would be the worst case scenario if someone started to dream? And then the second question that I would challenge them to answer would be, what do you feel is impossible today? But if dreaming could unlock that and actually move you closer to that goal of, overcoming that impossible thing,
mhm,
would you be willing to give it a try? And if they can answer those two questions, then I would usually go into, so we know it's hard. We're asking people to change. We're asking people to change the way they interact with each other, the way they think about themselves in the workplace, what they know about someone that they didn't know the day before, and it's uncomfortable. So it will change. It will cause a change, but I have never seen in all the years I've been dreaming with people, and Matthew, this is coming from Matthew Kelly's creation of the Dream Manager. I've never seen that when we open up the door to dreaming, that it's a negative impact on the
mm,
person, the team, or the company. It's actually what I've experienced is the opposite. So the advice I would give someone in that regard of, if it's not going to hurt you and it would allow you to achieve something that you believe is impossible, would you be willing to give it a try? And hopefully they would say yes. Okay, humor me. Yes, try it, whatever, and they would move forward. But what I would expect that they would see as an outcome is a strengthening in the teamwork that's happening, the ability to actually collaborate and have a conversation with someone to move an idea forward. People saying, I feel heard. I feel supported. I feel seen now, whereas before maybe I was just kind of hanging out in meetings and not really in engaged in what the company was doing. And so I would ask those leaders who are skeptical to give it a try. And if they don't like it, they don't have to do it anymore, basically, is how I would explain it. But if they're willing to explore it, it gives them a way to connect and talk to someone that they've known for years, possibly, but it gives them a door. And I always say, instead of asking people what they do, I like to ask people what they're dreaming about, because it gives people an opportunity to share something that's not work related, but share it with someone that they're working with. So.
Oh God, I love it. Yes, please incorporate this into your culture strategy. I mean, honestly, if you want a positive work culture where there is a sense of purpose and belonging, I think this is a huge part of it. And Michelle, look, I would love to incorporate dreamstorming not just at the studio level, but into our new codes, and encourage teams to do dreamstorming sessions within their teams. And so I would love to continue to collaborate with you. And I definitely am a huge fan of the work that you're doing. So for people that are out there that want to start incorporating some of these things that we've been talking about into their culture strategy, what are some ways that how can they get a hold of you? I know you're on LinkedIn, but what's your preferred mode of how they contact you? And I urge everybody that's listening to reach out to Michelle, because it's really powerful stuff.
Yeah, LinkedIn I think is my easiest way, because that's where I'm out there in the world. I definitely have email, and that's published in there. So it's michelle@techanalyticsgroup.com. Phone is out there, but the LinkedIn Connect is my dream, because for me, I've been working on a book for 2.5 years now. And so the more ways that I can connect with people, the bigger I think that book will have an impact. So I would love for people to reach out. And even if they just want to say, what is this about? How do I do it? I will be glad to share it. I don't have to come in and facilitate for you. You absolutely can do it. Just reach out and I'll share what I know and help you go through that.
I love your superpower, Michelle, to inspire and empower others to dream big. So there you have it, everybody. It's time. Thank you, Michelle, for this insightful conversation about dream-driven leadership, and for sharing your experience and wisdom with us. I'm going to continue working with you, because I think I want all of our nobodies to feel encouraged to pursue their dreams, because I know that if they're motivated and dreaming bigger, we're going to crush that goal of building 100 companies in 5 years. So anyway, so everybody, thank you for joining us. Min, I appreciate you, and everybody else joining us today. So I'm just going to end with until next time, keep dreaming and keep leading. So thank you again, Michelle. I hope you have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
day. Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you. Bye.